Oh, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you may be in this wonderful, wonderful world we live in. I'd just like to say thank you to everybody for tuning in, watching it now or later. It's awesome that you've done that. And if you could do me a huge favour, and we know everyone asks it, but I get 100 or so views, but if you can like it, maybe follow, put notifications on, then you'll get to see all of this and hear it whenever I send stuff up. So that'd be good. If there's something that you like, maybe share it to someone else too. That'd be cool as well. So before I go into today's stuff, I want to make an apology to a viewer from last week, CI12345Y, who's been trying to contact me through my Facegram, Instabook, TikTok account, whichever one it is. I don't know what's going on with it. I go in there and I don't see there's been any contact. So I'm going to have to speak to some experts in the field and see if they can tell me why I can't see your communication. So I'm sorry. I'd like you to still bear with me, and I'll try and find a way to communicate with you, because if you've got some ideas, that would be awesome for me to continue on doing what I'm doing. All right. So remembering at this point, if I don't think anything will offend you today, but if you're the delicate natured sort of a person, and you might not like what I'm going to say, then, get out, don't care, move on, go and see something else. Spend your next 15, 20 minutes or so watching other stuff. But if you're here, smash the button on the like thing, or like the button on the smash thing. Just, thumbs up. That'd be awesome. Is there a bear with me? Yeah, there is. A big bear. All right, so today I want to talk about swimming and, again, martial arts, but differently than I have in the past. But I'll probably hash a few pieces on that again, because I think they're pretty important for people to understand. So I went through some stats. I don't know what it's like in the areas where you are and where you live, but here in Australia, our school program in primary school, which is our grade 0s to 6s, have to do, I believe it's compulsory, it may not be. Those Australian people who are aware of this more than I am, just let me know if it is compulsory or not. But there's swimming lessons that are really actively encouraged for kids in those primary years to give them base skills in swimming. And because Australia is an island and there's a lot of water here, it's important that our kids have a base understanding on how to tread water, how to dog paddle to safety, pretty much how to protect themselves if there's a situation that may arise where water's involved. Now, I went through the stats, and I'll go through this and I'll read them out to you. And they're pretty horrible. Well, they're not really. It's just facts, right? So, as they say, facts don't care about feelings. This just is the way that it is. And these are set out over a number of years, because it's really hard to compile stats from last year, because they don't get those through to like another year or so. Around about, and this is ballpark figure, last year and year before, it's on average about 340 people drown every year. Right? Of those 300, and in that, about an extra 686 have experienced a non-fatal drowning incident. So that would be nearly drowned, been rescued, fallen out of a boat, resuscitated, but survived. Right. So I believe that's a non-fatal drowning incident. So that's around about 1,000 people. Right? 340 die, 660 have a near fatal experience. And of those people having the drowning experiences, 75% of them are male. So that's quite a high ratio of people who drown in Australia that are men. And of those men, of those 75% of the drownings that are men, about 50% of those are men over 45. So that would be old retired men who go swimming or go fishing, have a few beers, hit the head, fall over, drown. And that's horrible. That's not something I'm laughing at, because that's a horrible thing to happen to people. But I'm looking at statistics and what's happening for these things in schools, and kids in particular. Now, on average, over a 10-year period, around about, I had to compile these numbers a little bit, because the stats between 0 and 14 for kids were a little bit skewed. Most of the stats about drowning experiences were between 5 and 14. So between 5 and 14 on average over the last 10 years, 10 children drown between 5 and 14, and that's horrible. Then I dug a little bit deeper, and I sort of found that like more infants between 0 and 4, they drown, like 25 of those drown a year. And that's absolutely horrible. That's disgusting. It's a tragedy. So bringing that to a rounding up number, about say 340 people drown, 75% of those are men, and over 45, 35 children between 0 and 14 drown, and that anything we can do to help save those lives is an absolutely critical. So we give our schools, I think Daff is saying here that it seems to happen a lot around the world, but we're giving a lot of emphasis onto the drowning side and giving our kids a basic skill of staying afloat, how to tread water, and dog paddle to safety. Not very much is done here in Australia unless you actually actively go to work out about how to look at a tide rip, how to understand how to swim across the tides, because we have a lot of ocean here. Again, we're an island, so we need to educate our children not only in wonderful swimming pool conditions that are a little bit warm, but how to survive a more treacherous condition like a tidal river or the tides out in the ocean. And the only way you get those is if a parent actively goes out and puts them to that test in little nippers, which is lifeguards for kids. And that's a program I think needs to be encouraged more than just taking kids to a swimming pool. That in itself is leading to the next part of this, is where we're looking at the side of things that are not really looked at so much. And you'll see the correlation in these reports. They're almost the same. Right? So take drowning aside, remember 340 with water rescues last year, which I didn't mention. There's around about 10,000 water rescues by our lifeguards. And that's people out there swimming, hands up, can't swim, they go get rescued. And that's 10,000 around Australia. So that's a lot of water rescues. So congratulations to the lifeguards for doing that. You've saved probably thousands of lives by being there and doing that. So take this to the other aspect of today's, in around the same period I did the stats for the drowning and the near drowning experiences and the water rescues, the same stats for violence in Australia, around about the same, a little bit more, 377, let's round it up, 380 people were murdered in a similar period to those 340 people that drowned. Of those, unbelievably, and it seems to be weird why this is, but about the same ratio of children between 0 and 14 were murdered, and that was around 35. So the ratio of those are similar, but there's a lot of children being murdered. A lot of that they're being murdered by their mothers, sometimes by their fathers, and sometimes by other children. So there's a ratio of things in there that's pretty hard to deal with. So with water rescues at 10,000, I equate this now to the next part of this process of like common assaults. So a common assault here in Australia is something like I raise my fist in a threatening tone, or I push my finger into your chest. Even if I push you hard and your head hits a wall, if you feel slightly intimidated by a tone or an action, that's classed as a common assault. So it isn't really physical, right? But it could be. A push is assault, and poking in the chest, like that's an assault. Calling someone a dickhead, well, that's normal because a lot of people are. But they can take that, oh, you've hurt my feelings, and that's a common assault. So reported common assaults, which can range from, remember, anything from I hate you to a shove and a push, is like 386,000. 386,000 in that period, right? That same 2-year period from 2 years ago, whenever I can get the stats, to now. So common assaults are an unbelievable amount. So I then delved a little bit deeper, because a common assault to me could be blown out of stats today because of the woke people saying, oh, you hurt my feeling, I'm going to report you to the police. That will get done as a common assault. So taking that deeper, I wanted to find out more about physical assaults and to a degree sexual assault, because that's part of this process as well. Right? So as I dug a little deeper, and it's pretty hard to find that information, but there was around about 250,000 physical assaults, and unbelievably about the same between man and woman, like 120,000 women and 130,000 men were victims of physical and or sexual assault. Now, obviously, you look at more women being sexually assaulted, but a crap load more men being physically assaulted, and that ratio has been, they're the ones that have been reported to the police, right? So if you ask a police officer who's attended a domestic violence assault charge where a woman's attacked a man or a man's attacked a woman, a lot of those don't go anywhere than the police attendants, so they're not actually reported. And those stats aren't in this. So my friend would say there's probably around about, for every one reported assault, physical and or sexual, there's probably 5 to 10 or 9, so out of 10, that aren't reported. So those numbers are just blown right out, unbelievably. So let's say just keep the numbers that have been reported. There's 250,000 physical and sexual assaults every year in Australia. 10,000 water rescues, 250,000 physical assaults and or sexual. The schools, however, have almost zero tolerance to anything to do with contact with kids. You're not allowed to wrestle in schools anymore. They're discouraging kids from climbing trees here in Australia, just in case they fall out and break an arm, and the school could be deemed responsible for that. There's a serious lack of education for children on the most basic skill to protect themselves. Good on you, Daff. No, the murders don't happen in the water, or maybe they do. But on the serious note on this is, we teach our children how to dog paddle and tread water in case they go in the water in a recreational environment and they have to protect themselves from drowning. And I think that's really important. Where there's a lot of water, what people don't seem to realize is that before you get to the water, there's a lot of people on the beach. And in today's world, there's a lot of short-tempered, aggressive men, women, and children in that area before you even confront the water to use your dog paddle and your treading water to help yourself stop yourself from drowning. So why don't we put some more emphasis on the basic self-protection of children, when we know that out of those common assaults, at least, even the physical assaults, at least 9,000 of those have been done against children between 0 and 14. So that's 9,000 people, 9,000 kids who on a yearly basis have been confronted, abused, physically assaulted, and these again are the reported stats. So I'm not talking about martial art classes. I'm not talking about martial art classes here. I'm thinking that the school program needs to teach the most basic skill of awareness of your surroundings, looking at people's body language, seeing their facial expression, understanding that eye contact is critical, so that when you walk into a place, you look at people and smile and greet them, so that they don't automatically feel like you're not looking at them and then you're avoiding them, and then it makes them feel a little bit stronger and makes them feel like they want to come and attack you or confront you or say things. These skills are really, really basic. If you taught that as a program in schools from the very beginning of the schooling education, teach them how to do just to push hands away if someone's shoving, how to deflect that, how to respond back. Because sometimes, and I have a couple of students in the past that have been suspended for protecting themselves against an idiot who was attacking them in school grounds. Just pushing, deflecting the hands and pushing them back, and they get suspended for escalating violence, and that's absolutely ridiculous. It needs to be a certain level of accepted violence in a school ground, so that everyone gets this. Now, arguments have been, when I've said this before, arguments have been brought to me like, oh, all you're doing is promoting violence and encouraging the people to escalate that to using something bigger and better. And I say, look, that's extremely possible. However, in a school environment, at the very, very beginning of the school, in the primary years of their education, if these, I don't like the word bully, I think it's a fabricated word, but these people who pick on the little ones do that because they don't believe the little ones can do anything about it. So if you teach the little one how to deflect an attack, how to push their hands away and push back, then that levels the playing field a little bit. And those people who want to pick on them are going to go, that kid probably knows something, so I probably won't, or I may, but I'll try a little bit harder. And then it escalates potentially. And I'm not going to live on potential because, I don't know what's going to happen any given day with myself, let alone what a kid's going to do to another kid or a man's going to do to another man. But I will tell you this right now, if people are walking into an area and they realise that those people in that area can look after themselves and they're able to protect themselves, they're less likely to do anything. Because most of these people that pick on others and go to bars and use their words and use their aggression against others do so to intimidate, and they believe they've got something over that other person. So they may think they've got skills. But if everyone has skills, it levels that playing field and it may move on to other things. Someone has said once to me about, if you do that, then those kids are going to bring knives. I'm going to tell you right now, most kids have knives today, even when the playing field is so skewed in the offside. It's unbelievable. Basic protection skills. Teach our kids how to look after themselves. Teach them how to have some spatial awareness. Teach them how to look at people, to read people's minds, not read their minds because that could be perverted, but to read their expressions, to read where they may be going and anticipate something. Make sure that they're aware of their surroundings wherever they go, even in school. And these things are most basic skills to me, exactly the same as a swimming lesson to teach a kid to tread water and do dog paddle to save their lives. We need, as school teachers, school providers, education system, I believe needs to teach the kids basic skills in self-protection. And if you think that's even slightly right, and you think we need to do something about that, then this is where you need to get the thumbs on this page, like it, share this with other people, share these views with other people, try and get the system to change so that we can get our kids to protect themselves. They shouldn't need us to protect them. They shouldn't. They should be able to do that for themselves. A child shouldn't have to go to a teacher and say, "Excuse me, miss, little Johnny was pushing me." Because all that does is make little Johnny more angry. All that does is make that child more weak in the eyes of those around them. That child needs to stand up. That child needs to push back and maybe get a punch in the face. Maybe. But if you stand up to these people that are pricking on you and you push back a little bit, those people will try and find someone else. And if everyone has that skill, what are they going to do? Really, what are they going to do? So I think that's pretty important. Like swimming lessons, we give our kids a swimming lesson to save and protect their lives from drowning. If they want to go further into swimming and they really, really enjoy it, then they can go to a swimming class and learn freestyle, breaststroke, backstroke, butterfly, whatever they want to learn, and they can look at then taking that into a competitive nature and swim stronger, go to surf lifesaving, rescue people. That's fantastic. Same would be with basic self-protection skills. It doesn't mean that they're fighters. It doesn't mean that they're anything more than people who have a skill to look after where they're going. If they really enjoy that and they like the discipline, the things they're getting, then let them join a martial arts school. Let them go there. Parents then can take them somewhere else to enhance that skill. They can learn to kick high and block fast and punch stronger and go into competition, improve their skills, but at that base level, don't teach kids to dog, teach kids to be strong enough to stand up to themselves. It levels the playing field. And I know that if you're putting lots of comments, and I'm so in this, is so passionate for me, I'm not reading them, but I will get to it and I'll have a bit of a read in a minute while you guys think about what I'm saying. Do some research for yourself. Little Johnny took a bite out of my back. Huh. He did it himself. Well, that's possible too. But look, I think, I don't know. This is really important to me. I've been a martial artist for so long, and I've been in the area of teaching self-protection for probably 10 years. And self-protection isn't self-defense. It's so I think I might have mentioned this before, but I'm not sure if I have. So I'm going to say it again, just really quickly. Just finishing off that self-protection versus self-defense. A lot of martial arts schools in their advertising campaigns promote that they teach self-defense. And I actually question that any of them actually do. I know of a martial art instructor here on the Gold Coast who was, I don't know, in the area's 5th degree whatever style is irrelevant. A traditional martial art advertises self-defense for kids and all that sort of thing. He was beaten up by 3 young guys, and I just don't believe it. I just can't accept that that's even slightly humanly possible, that a 5th degree black belt can be beaten up by 3 young guys. He didn't put himself in the right position. He wasn't aware of his surroundings. He provoked a situation that he shouldn't have provoked, tried to do things that he wasn't in the area of being able to do, used basic rules and etiquette from the martial art world in a street fight situation, failed dismally. And these are the people that advertise self-defense for kids. And they may be fantastic martial artists and fantastic martial sports practitioners, can go into competition under a whole heap of conditions and learn how to, and be very successful in it, even be world champions in it. I don't like that term. They're not world champions because they didn't compete against me. They competed against people in the competition. And I don't believe that's a world champion. I think they're a I don't know, a world competition champion, or a world, not even a world champion, an event champion. And that's anyway, that's another issue. So I don't believe people who teach BJJ are teaching self-defense. I don't believe they are. I believe BJJ is an absolutely fantastic sport. It's a fantastic competition to watch. But you're on your ground, you stand, stay up, you go to the ground, you wrestle on the ground. That stuff doesn't work in the street. You might be able to control someone so long as they don't have 3 mates. And this is in schools as well, guys. It's not just in the street. It's everywhere. The goal is to stand and be standing, not to go to the ground. It's to get yourself so you're aware of that dynamic, to see that person coming and going, oh, that person over there is looking a little bit sus. He's a bit loud, having a bit to drink, or he's a kid at school who's walking around as if he's pushing his way through things. So the art of avoidance is much, much more important. So I don't believe martial arts schools teach self-defense. Not really. Everything's under a controlled condition. Even UFC fighting's under controlled conditions. They say it isn't. Like, yes, they hit harder. They ground and pound on the ground. When the guy taps out, it stops. In the street, that doesn't happen. The guys will just keep going to your bloody pulpy mess of blood and bone all over the ground, and you're probably dead. So you don't let yourself go to the ground. You don't start wrestling with someone bigger than you. You deflect their energy. You try and push them away and move and avoid it. These are things that need to be taught to kids at school, just the same as they're treading water and dog paddling to save their lives. Remember the stats. 10,000 water rescues a year, 10,000 people who have been involved in a situation that they could have drowned, 250,000 assaults, reported assaults every year, versus 10,000 water death experiences. 250,000 guys, that's a lot, men and women, equally across that spectrum. Equal amount of murders to drownings. Equal amount of kids get murdered to kids drown. The stats are there. The stats are out there for you to have a look at it. But be aware, most of the people that drown are men, and most of those men are over 45. So the ratio of 25% of the people that drown are under 45, and that's actually a lot when you look at that. So the assault charges are predominantly kids, teenagers through 25 to 30. These are the ages where we need to give our kids some protection and skill. And I think it's our responsibility to do that. And Daff, you're right. The best way to win a fight is to avoid it. And I think the way we need to avoid a fight is to teach the kids how to be aware of a dynamic that's coming up. So anyway, that's all I want to talk about today. There's so many other things, but again, I don't know, please share this if you believe this is a value we need to teach, to give our kids the skill, not to dob, because that just makes the person angry at them and it makes them weaker in the minds of everybody else. I don't care what the left brigade talk about. It isn't the right thing to do. It never has been. There is a playground pecking order. There's a pecking order in a hen house. There's pecking orders everywhere, and you don't want your child to be at the bottom of the pecking order. So don't teach them to dob. Give them the skill to stand up and protect themselves, and teach them how to watch where things are coming. This is really one of my life missions. If we can get more children protected from this and to learn to avoid conflict, then it'd be fantastic. And my life I'd feel more complete than there already is, which is pretty impossible. Anyway, finally, as I said last week, and I'm going to say it at the end of every session, remember, 100 people will die today, but 270 people will be born. It's our responsibility to farewell those that are departing with honour and to welcome those arriving with peace. So on that, enjoy your journey. Have a great weekend. Peace, love, and mung beans up here. Have an awesome weekend. I will catch you next time.